Good morning. I am Dave Klee, and we are live in the Divelab for a first session of a Divelab broadcast. It's been a bit of a challenge getting all the technology working, but I'm Diver Dave, and of course, I'm in the Divelab, and it's morning, so you know I have the coffee. 613 Dive, for those who haven't watched any of the videos, is essentially a private scuba business that I run out of Ontario. I'm actually located in Ottawa, Ontario, and we do most of our diving out here in the St. Lawrence River, which for me is about an hour's drive. I've been diving out there for, I guess, just 6 seasons. Spend a lot of time diving out there. It's a great place to dive, great place to learn, and so I feel like we're pretty lucky to have the Brockville area sort of local to us. The podcast is now something that we continue to work on as we continue to gain and grow. We are now at a little over 100 subscribers, so that's pretty cool. So thank you to everyone out there who has taken the time to watch, comment, like, and also subscribe. That is much appreciated, and it's pretty cool. If you see me looking around, I've got a laptop to my left, which sort of handles all of the broadcasting software. And then I've also got a monitor up top, just up top of the camera, that gives me some YouTube panels, some chat group stuff, and also a list of topics. And so the format for this is probably going to be most likely a coffee session, hopefully on Friday mornings, that we can just discuss and chat diving, depending on who we can get in terms of asking questions, and also go over some sort of topics from the week that passed in 613 Dive. So let's talk a little bit about what happened last week or last weekend. I would say it was a pretty busy weekend for me. Saturday, we ended up going down to Brockville, Canada Diving Supply, which is a great local dive shop here in Canada. Had a nice diving course, so I figured I would pop in. I was going to take them some coffee, but they ended up having a ton of stuff already. But I got to hang out and watch the ice course go down and up and then back down. But I am not an ice diver or ice certified. I am a full cave diver, so I do enjoy diving in an overhead environment. But for me, the ice diving itself is just a lot of surface prep and a lot of work and effort to get a dive in. So I kind of sort of stay away from it. And watching that course, they did a great job. I mean, they had, of course, redundant holes. They had tethered lines. They had tenders at the surface. They marked all the spots. And it was good to see all the prep work. But for me, it was like, wow, that's a lot of setup. Shout out to the students. I mean, it's definitely cold conditions. We probably were minus 10-ish in terms of surface weather. And then the water probably being close to somewhere in the 33 to 34 degree Fahrenheit. So it was definitely very, very cold and a lot of free flows. They had some very good surface support in terms of providing hot water to sort of unthaw all of the ice from the first stages and the second stage regs. And overall, they did a good job. It's just just a difficult course to get through. So not sure I have ice diving anywhere sort of in my future for the time being. I would think I'd prefer to throw the gear in the truck and head on down to Florida and go do some cave diving with some buddies. But shout out to those who got it done. And then we got to hang out with a buddy of mine, my Liberty Dive Soft CCR instructor, for the rest of the afternoon, hanging out with Mr. Luke. Shout out Mr. Luke as well. Luke was in town, also getting his CCR serviced. Shout out to Steph and Nat. It was great to see you guys again. And so got to spend out Saturday afternoon out in the Brockville area, hanging out and talking CCR. And then Sunday was very cool because I was back to Brockville. This happens a fair bit in my travels. I was starting my Liberty, or I guess it's Liberty Dive Soft or Liberty CCR Mod 1 instructor course. So we have 3 new CCR students that are starting in late May. Shout out to Ariane, shout out to Philip, and shout out to Mr. David. And we are also taking on 3 new Liberty instructors. I'm going to be one of them to teach the Mod 1 course, which is the first level of CCR certification on the Liberty unit. That is being taught from the student and the instructor side by the wizard, Mr. Steph Sanical. So it was a full day, full day of getting to orientate with the students and the other two instructors. So the other two instructors are going to be my buddy Luke and Mr. Lucas. So we've got a lot of work sort of scheduled for that piece in terms of that instructor. I would imagine that's going to be, at least a month or two of work once we start to get in the water and start to actually kick the course off. So this was just a sort of a full orientation day where we review what the course is going to be, and then, of course, go over the high levels in terms of the CCR and its capabilities. So that was obviously a fun day. Always great to talk CCR with the dive wizard. There's always something that I learn. And so that was a pretty long but very fun Sunday. And then we spent the majority of the time last week still working on the YouTube channel. The YouTube piece for me has been quite the learning experience. And this is sort of one of the reasons why I wanted to go with the broadcast piece as well, because I wanted to figure out that technology. My background is a bit of an IT engineer, so some of this is kind of secondary to me in terms of learning it. But at the same time, it's still a lot of work. The editing, the putting everything up on the YouTube channel, all of the search engine optimization is still an ongoing process. That is definitely a huge learning curve. Even things like thumbnail design and the titling and the descriptions and where you put the hashtags, all of that sort of stuff is very difficult to learn. And it takes a bit of time, and I am by no means an expert at this point. So we're just going to keep putting in the time, and we'll see where that ends up. I feel like the better I get at the edits, the better I get at the SEO, the better I get at the thumbnail design. I think that's probably going to show some good progress as we get better at this. I think we actually have our first chat comment, which is pretty funny. Shout out to Mr. Kurt. I hope you're doing well, Mr. Deadfoot Diver. If you haven't checked out the Deadfoot Diver sort of channel on YouTube, it's pretty cool. He's got some very, very cool guests coming up, and as well as he's posted some really fun videos. So big learning curve, Mr. Kurt. You're damn right. Oh my God, it's and it's still going, man. It's and I thought I was pretty good at all this stuff, and I'm not even close. And I'm sure you're going through the same process right now, as I can see that your thumbnail designs are changing for the better too. I can see the progression between our two channels, so it's actually pretty cool to see. The YouTube piece, I think, is probably the biggest learning curve for me. I've got all the diving time. I'm happy to put that time in. I do have a bit of a photography background from way back in the day and some edit time. But, making sure that it's optimized for YouTube has been probably the biggest learning curve. I am working on 3 videos sort of at the moment in parallel on the edit station. They are sort of shot, and now it's sort of in edit mode. For those that actually don't know, it's, for a 16-minute video, at least for me, because I'm not the best editor in terms of speed, it's probably somewhere between the 3 to 5 hour mark to put that together for 16 minutes. So it takes a fair bit of time once you have the video to sort of chop it up and get it ready for to get out to the world. So, and then Mr. Kurt says, I do it for a living as well. Yeah, it's a lot. Well, that's, I didn't know you were actually an editor for a living. Is that what you're saying? If so, that's pretty cool. I'm sure I could learn a few things. But for me, it's been definitely a challenge. I try to my son is also Reese, who has been on the videos. He's also a very good diver. Reese is also in the middle of spinning up his own YouTube channel, and it's called Unbiased Sports. So check it out. And so him and I are sort of going back and forth almost every day, sort of changing ideas and trying to figure out this YouTube beast. So Mr. Kurt says he's actually in IT support. So I got it. That makes sense. And so, Mr. Kurt, seeing how you're the only one in the dive channel so far, when does your live broadcast come out? And if you, I'd be interesting. So make sure you let me know. I feel like for me, the live broadcast is a whole lot harder because I don't have the luxury of the edit weapon. if I make a mistake on a normal video, I can somehow sort of finagle it in the edit timeline to sort of make that disappear. So you're really out here on your own when when it feels like it's live, for sure. So the 3 videos I'm going to be working on is some stuff around SPGs and making sure that how do you confirm that you do actually have air. And so that'll be the first one in terms of, you're about to jump off the boat and how do you make sure that your valve is on. That's one of the videos I'm going to work on, or I am working on. The next one is I'm going to try to pick up some sort of vintage scuba diving one as well, because that one seemed to hit pretty good. The oxygen cake video is actually our best performing video to date, which is pretty comical because I decided to kind of do that one on a whim, as I was just surfing around on the web and I had actually come across a link about oxygen cake and it kind of got my curiosity, and it sort of led me down a very, very long rabbit hole in terms of vintage diving, but it was very cool to understand the history. And so I probably will try to put a vintage video in from time to time. So as Kurt says, we'll do, no definite date, live, scary. Yeah, it's scary for sure. And, I don't know if are you a Mac guy or if you're a Windows guy. I'm a Windows guy, so I ended up having to get OBS Studio up here and running on the laptop that's sitting in the Divelab. So that at its own was a bit of a beast to get up and running. And so right now I feel like my Divelab is more like a dive studio and less about diving. So that's going to have to change at some point, for sure. And last but not least, if we move on from the YouTube piece, I did manage to find a bunch of cool dive gear stuff to buy from the used circle of, the used dive circle that I'm sort of in and out of. And so I thought I'd do a quick review of some of that stuff. I managed to pick up a really nice set of regs. So it comes with a really nice Apex DS4 first stage, which is very nice. Probably going to be using that on one of my stages. These are sort of basically tanks. They're built like tanks. So always happy to pick one of those up and put it in the dive kit. I did manage to pick up a couple of, because I'm building out a couple of sets for students. So some Octopus. So this is an XTX40 reg Apex, and then also an XTX50 Apex. So that should work for some of my student setups in terms of their secondary stage. And then I picked up a very cool tank inspection because I do my own VIPs. One of the things I did was a PSI course way back in the day, so I could sort of do all of my own VIPs, all my tanks. And so this is a very cool optical sort of viewfinder that I can put into the tank, and it's microscopic. It has a light on it and allows me to inspect all of the threads very easily. So that's pretty cool. And last but not least, I also picked up a very nice Dive Soft analyzer. It's a Trimix analyzer. It does have the helium sensor in there as well. I've been looking to buy one of these for quite a while, so I managed to find one used. It's always good if you can find stuff used. You can save some money depending on who it comes from. In this case, the diver it came from, it was very, very well cared for. And so these are extremely nice piece of gear, the Dive Soft analyzers. So I guess Reese gets to take my old nitrox analyzer and move it off into his dive kit. So there we go. So this was a very, very quick broadcast test in terms of could we get the technology working? How scary is it going to be? Or am I just going to sort of fly out the door here and say never do it again? Mr. Kurt, I appreciate you coming on in and taking the click in and listening. That's pretty awesome. It's always nice to see at least one person in the chat. I know for sure if you're like me, you're probably watching the subscriber count grow, hopefully on a daily basis. It's slow and steady here on the 613 Dive side for sure. But I do appreciate everyone who has subscribed. That is... it's a pretty cool feeling. I will also say that in my office, I have a small subscribe panel on one of my monitors. And every morning I come in, I make the coffee, and I always take a quick look to see, hey, did I get any more subscribers today? And sometimes it's kind of sad because you've gone down a few subscribers. You're like, oh man, I lost people. It's like you don't really know what's going on there. So, but it's been an up and down journey, but it's been a ton of fun. And Mr. Kurt says, okay, I'll get you on well to do one together live. There we go. That should be that should be pretty interesting for sure. It's definitely, I'm sitting in the box on my own. What is it? 7:54 in the morning on a Saturday. I got coffee, and so it was a good fun attempt, and I'm sure we'll be back. So, Mr. Kurt, appreciate it. Thank you, buddy. All the best. I'm sure we'll hook up sometime when you're over here in the Brockville area for diving. It sounds like you've got some diving to do with Mr. Hubie coming up. And when you're in town, please reach out. I'm sure we'll get a dive in. Other than that, I appreciate it, and take care. Thanks.